If you want to hear from the epitome of the person who embodies the idea of pursuit, who builds relationships, who builds wellness through focusing on physical, financial, environmental, emotional, social, occupational, intellectual, spiritual dimensions of wellness, who at her core identity is an athlete and a builder, who, might I add, has a daughter, has a fruitful career, has accomplished insane physical feats, such as 4 Ironman races, 3 half Ironmans, being a D1 college athlete, formerly being a licensed attorney, a college triathlon and tennis coach who is a licensed nutritionist, and most recently is a star on Pickleball Paddle Battle, which is pickleball's first ever competition reality TV show streaming exclusively on YouTube January 14th, 2026. We are so lucky that Kris Diehl sat down with us on the pod. If you know Kris in real life, I'm not the first to wonder what her mindsets are about life, about parenting, about goals, about how to know if what you're pursuing is the right thing for you, building the identity of who you want to be and integrating that into a lifestyle that supports the type of person you envision yourself to be. We talk about how career is mixed into physical health, the importance of being able to rely on yourself. Today we talk about it. You are in for a treat. After our chat, head over to kjskelling.com to go to Kris's website and keep up with all of her latest pursuits. It will be linked in the description of this podcast across all platforms. Now for my conversation with Kris Diehl. I'm so honored that you're here with me and taking the time to chat.
Thank you for having me. When did we first meet? 2010?
It's got to be on the order of that. Oh my gosh. So Kris was my tennis coach for years. And then quickly we realized that both of our families meshed so well together and we became a lot more than just tennis player and coach. And Kris has this way of building fantastic relationships with players. And so I was honored to be one of those, even though I wasn't on her college team, being one of her private lesson tennis players and then transforming into this whole family relationship. And now we go on trips together. Now we come over every holiday. And I watched Emmy grow up. I remember when Emmy is Kris's daughter. From 3 years old, she was walking around here, little blonde, like the cutest little girl ever. And now we're talking about her going to college. Kris was the first person in my life who I ever heard talk about nutrition in the way you did, fitness in the way you do, and we just got done working out together, which was awesome. We just got done with the lift. And I just look over to you, and even now, 15 years later, I'm still look at you and I'm inspired by you getting up today. And you were gonna go lift even if I was here or not. I've been impressed since the day that I met you all the way till now, 15 years later. Get an insight into your psyche.
For better or worse.
What keeps you motivated to keep pursuing all the things that you do?
Originally, growing up, I was probably motivated by your traditional end result, that being trophies and A+s and goals in soccer and wins. And most kids probably grow up with that being because they're rewarded and they're given respect and told how good they are and patted on the back. And now it's totally different. Now, at one point I was home and my mom told me to clean out my room, so they could use it more as a guest room. This was 10 years ago. And you have all these trophies, and I actually threw them away. I probably should have donated them because I think there's trophy shops. But you realize at some point that it was more the experiences that were the fulfilling side of that. And I think now that's what motivates me, is like the sense of fulfillment that I may or may not get out of an experience or a pursuit. And sometimes you don't know that until after having pursued it. But I think what I'm seeking more of on a daily basis in anything and everything that I do is a sense of fulfillment, and that can come in different forms, whether it be emotional or relationships or excellence or work ethic, or a final product. Like, you take pride, and if you paint a room, every time you walk into that room, you have this sense of pride that I did this. And
What about less tangible things, similar to, you said, fulfillment in relationships and accomplishments, where maybe you're not going after the trophy, or especially relationships because they're a little bit more vague? How do you find
fulfillment in a relationship?
Interesting question. Emotional well-being is impacted, like people matter and people in your life matter, and no one wins alone. That's a book reference, but I very much value the people that are close to me, my friends and family, and like lifting with you this morning made it that much more rewarding and fulfilling, because you were there with me and we were totally like doing our own thing, but we're there together. So yeah, relationships like make anything and everything more fulfilling.
Right, yeah. And when we're younger, we can rely on that
External reward system.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it, to motivate us to do things. And then as we get older, so for example, parents' approval, the accolades, the trophy, the grade. I mean,
The resume builders. Yep.
and think about it, our whole from 0 to 25 years is just, what are you going to be able to put on your resume? The older I get, the more that turns from an external reward system to an internal reward system. It's really interesting that you describe a similar experience with going for those accolades when you're younger, how that shift happened in your life.
Just loved playing sports. I loved learning, like being in school and getting degrees. And so inherently, I think there was internal motivation throughout. I just may not have recognized the degree of it and or how much more rewarding that side of it is. And that becomes your why. But yeah, I would say significantly later in life, and probably once I realized, you build a resume, I look at that now and kind of, what does that mean? It's not the line that's written in terms of a degree from here, it's the experience in total.
Similar to how somebody can look at your physique, that's the last sliver. What you have to do to get to that state is everything that nobody else sees. Your law degree, that's the one line on the resume, and then there's many years of work that nobody sees. And I find that more and more. And so people can rattle off your accomplishments, what you've done, where you've been, your degrees, your physical accomplishments. However, the real depth and the meaning behind it is everything that went into it, and that last line is the only thing that people see. It gives me this appreciation for people like you, who I know have accomplished a lot. You have your law degree, and you made an app, and you have a blog, and Ironmans, and I could rattle off these things about you, but I can start to understand a sliver of all the work that went in even before all that nobody else sees, all the work in the dark that only you see. I think it's so cool that even now, so many years later, I feel like I just have a more deep appreciation of everything that you've done.
Interesting that you should say in the dark, because I do like to run and work out like in the dark when nobody's here. Like, had you not been here this morning, I would have left the lights off when I was out there. And yes, I like working kind of when nobody knows like what you're doing and the extent of what you're doing. Going back to kind of that end result, I guess I also, like when you do attain the success or the end result or the body or finish the Ironman, like I actually, like there's almost a sense of deflation in that I immediately start to think like, what now? I was motivated to be on this path or journey, but then you got there and kind of what's next? Like what's going to inspire and excite me to get up tomorrow morning? And the joke is oftentimes like when I finish an Ironman on a Saturday or Sunday, like you finish and you're like, oh, never again, and then the next morning, like I'm online, like looking for another event or something else, like the next pursuit or endeavor. But that also kind of feels like a hamster wheel, and now I'm at a point in my life where I'm even questioning that kind of the hamster wheel and the why, and looking for and seeking, I don't know, fulfillment in different ways, and starting to study like dimensions of wellness and putting this all together in terms of like integrative health. And I'm probably overdeveloped on the physical well-being side, and less so on the social well-being side and or spiritual well-being.
Do you feel satisfied after you run an Ironman?
In many ways, yes, but in other ways, not. You know, like one thing you had kind of prepped me, said you were going to ask whether I felt successful on a macro level. And yeah, of course, in some ways, yes, like I pat myself on the back for my efforts and my attitude and pursuits and I guess just willingness and desire to get up and get after it day after day. But I also think a lot of my successes are solo endeavors, you know, that do they necessarily impact the world or other people in a positive way, shape, or form? You know, so I also, in terms of fulfillment, I'm at a point where I'm starting to wonder and question, like I want to be part of something bigger than myself, you know, and some of these endeavors are 100% solo, like just thinking on a level of community and bettering the world. And I don't know, I guess Maslow, his hierarchy of needs, the top of that goes beyond yourself. Self-transcendence is his word. Your impact on other people. My first exposure to anything wellness, in my opinion, was Maslow's like hierarchy of needs in a psychology class in college. And I kind of come back to that. And now, like my personal, like I'm studying the dimensions of wellness more as like a wellness wheel. My core identity, like if there were one word that you would describe me as, it would be athlete. A lot of the events that I've done are incorporated into travel for us. Like the event is just one of a 2-week block. I would incorporate it into our trip out west, which makes like all of it in total like hit all of these like marks for me. And not just the event, like I did the Boulder Ironman, like we camped leading up to that. And then the next day, you know, here we're in the Great Sand Dunes National Park, and you're supposed to deflate your tires like if and when you're driving. There's parts of like the sand that you can drive, and we got stuck, so another couple and I are outside the Forerunner like pushing and getting it going. I'm like running after our Forerunner in sand nonetheless, like the day after like this Ironman.
And the fact that you are camping right before you do an Ironman blows my mind.
Yeah, we were in Benton Harbor, a half Ironman in Benton Harbor, and I was putting my wetsuit on in a tent. Like
That's iconic. That's
yeah.
I feel like that's the epitome of you. That's so cool that you integrate it into your trips. What do you feel you're most proud of nowadays?
Family, my daughter, and our home life, like the compilation of all of these experiences added up over years, and the number of people I've met in these different endeavors or industries. Every person in my life inspires me in some way, shape, or form. Another thing that I'm most proud of is just acting on a daily basis in accordance with my own values, principles, integrity system. Because when you're younger, you don't always do that. Like I just feel like I'm very much authentically who I am and who I want to be, and live in accordance with that.
When it comes to your daughter, what are you most proud of?
Our daughter's transformation. I feel like this was the year. I was taking a photo in October, and it just dawned on me that this was the year that she grew up from a teenager into a young adult, and she looks like a young adult in the photo. But just, I mean, it's been phenomenal to see and grasp, and I didn't know this was going to happen this year. I didn't know this was going to be the year that she was going to grow up, like, or awaken to the world, as Eric termed it. You know, just she's driving herself to and from her dad's in Chicago. She is extremely kind. She's thoughtful. She puts together gift baskets for friends and will leave one on the kitchen counter for me in the morning. And she has an extremely high EQ. She works hard at school. She has her own pursuits, like you know, when I see you and Sasha, like, like pursuing things, making yourself vulnerable on a daily basis, like, and that's where, like, Emmy with photography, and she's working hard at her grades, and I don't know, she's just like this phenomenal like adult now to me, and we're not ready for her to fly the coop, but yeah, I mean, just I'm just proud of like who she is.
Yeah.
As a person.
And I bet it's so cool to have you created her. You know, I can only imagine the day that I create somebody and then I witness them doing all the things they do.
Yeah, it's really cool to have a mini me, and she looks a lot like
Yeah,
me.
she
like,
does. Especially when she was little. Oh my gosh, she was a copy of you. And even now, yeah.
I have a picture of us in the same sweatshirt and sweatpants.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she put a hat on. So yes, like, it's pretty cool to have a mini me who 100% at times is just like me. Like, she'll say something in defiance or in general, and I can't even be upset with her because I'm like, oh, I would have thought or said the exact same thing. You know, we wanted her to set the table at Grandma and Grandpa. She was like 6 years old. And I said, Grandma and Grandpa went to a lot of work. Like, the least that you can do is set the table. And she looked at me, she said, no, the least that I could do is nothing at all. And she's so smart. I'm like, technically, you are correct. But like, but I can't even be upset because I would have been the smart ass that said the exact same thing.
I've always admired how always treated her with respect.
We're all trying to do our best as a parent, like, every day. And yeah, and there's other times that she's not like me at all. And I appreciate that also because she is her own person.
How have you managed making time for yourself even throughout the whole journey of motherhood?
I guess I actually am not like, I probably could have done a far better job of protecting my own time. Like,
Really?
I feel like I'm doing that better now. I feel like the last 10 years have been more devoted to, by choice, and I wouldn't change anything, but on a macro level, devoted to parenting. I don't know, I was certainly not the parent that said, I'm going for a run. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, here's the answer. I feel like I incorporated it, did a good job making it work while still parenting. That was done by taking a 2-week family trip and the Ironman being 15 hours of it, you know, because that's how long it took me. And then like this is my time, but now this is our time. Mm-hmm. Like quickly transitioning back and forth. And a lot of my, like, professionally, when I'm teaching a tennis lesson to you, I'm hitting tennis balls, you know, or in a tennis practice, like, I was hitting into that. Mm-hmm. So it was often the case by the end of the day, the last thing I needed was more physical exertion. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. and run because I taught a fitness class at 6 a.m.
That's a really key insight, is integrating the lifestyle you want to live in a way that works, something that makes you money, and that family time.
Probably been on the treadmill, the elliptical, and the bike here, all of those things combined, a total of 10 times or less. Because that's just not how I exercise. Like, a lot of my training is functional training. Now I have time to lift, but there were years that I didn't regularly lift, but I would do a landscaping project over the weekend, right? Or even going to Sam's Club, like, park far away, walk to the door, walk the store, being on the go, so to speak. And this was stemmed from, like, my childhood. You know, my parents own and operate, like, a franchise, a business, and they were big on us having jobs, okay? And so I worked at True Value 20 hours a week, and that was on top of playing 5 sports in high school and club sports and academics. Like, honestly, it was only a couple years ago that I feel like I sat down for the first time in my life. and because Emmy was to a point where more self-sufficient and started driving. And like, that's when I felt like I have time. What do I do with it? Whereas before, this is what's on deck today. You get up and you go to a practice, and then you go to school, and then you have a practice after school, and then you go work from 6 to 10 as a cashier at True Value. And then 5 years later, like, I'm in college, and you get up and you go to class and you go to practice. And I had jobs throughout college in terms of tutoring and at the college bookstore. And when you're constantly moving, like, I don't feel like I specifically trained for my first Ironman. I feel like I was prepped for that because of having moved for 35 years of my life at that point. My mom, she would walk with one of our neighbors every morning, and like, I would speed walk with her, and she's like, why can't you keep up? And I'm like, like, I don't know. So even in the middle of my Ironman, I was like, thank you, Mom, for all of those like walks that you made me go on. Like, looking back, I wish I had wanted to go and spend that time with her, and like, and valued that, instead of at the time like, but everything just adds up. And most of my training my entire life has been more functional than specific.
Now that you feel you do have the time, how do you fill that time?
Yeah, I actually struggled with that some, like, just being at a point where there's less, not even obligation, but just less to do. I spent a lot more time walking the last couple years, just reflecting, thinking, but maybe almost too much. And I feel like I'm back to the point of doing and setting blocks of time where I'm writing for my website, and that's just for myself. I like writing, I like being creative. Next year, project that I'm interested in, doing a deep study of each dimension of wellness for like a 2-week block. And that's like, right now I'm studying physical well-being, and then starting the new year, this is a year-long project, a deep dive into wellness, but spending those first 6 weeks of the year like implementing the best practices for that are lifestyle, something you can carry forward, but just the best practices for physical well-being. Implement that for 6 weeks, and then the latter 2 weeks of that, I'll be studying, I think financial well-being is next, because it's tax season and we're leading up to Eric's retirement. And so yeah, kind of best practices for financial well-being, and spend 6 weeks like implementing and focused on that, and find projects and endeavors that excite me still.
Always found it really cool how you identify as an athlete, but you also have this creative side to you with your writing, with the app that you created.
Yeah, I do like to build things.
Yeah,
like
building.
Whether it be teams or DIY projects. I've thought the same, that actually, if I had to describe myself in one word, it would be builder.
What advice would you give people seeking motivation as a motivated individual yourself?
Find things that excite you and are in line with your values and principles, and what you want to pursue. Like, the foundation for a lot of my pursuits is growth or learning. They say never stop learning, seek new challenges, keep moving forward, like, despite maybe setbacks, or like, just keep going. Activating your mind and body and spirit, like,
just keep going.
Take a step in any direction.
Who are your mentors, both online and in person?
Literally, I can look around and say something about anyone and everyone that inspires me, like, in my life, or someone that I meet. I do ask a lot of questions, and I'm curious about hobbies. And my assistant coach for triathlon was paragliding, like, as something he added. And like, just these random hobbies, like, I'm inspired by that. In terms of specific people, like, those in my life, again, like, I would maybe break it down by dimension, like occupational well-being. My parents grew a business from like a 5-cent copy shop in a strip mall to like one of the top franchises in the Pit Printing Network. my husband Eric has been coaching for over 40 years, and with 900 wins. I mean, just think how many matches he's coached and how long he's been doing that, and his commitment to tennis in general, his love for tennis. Intellectually, again, my husband, your family, my friend Nan is an avid reader. Shannon was a federal prosecutor for 20 years. Like, intellectually, there's a lot of people around me and in my life that inspire me. Spiritually, my friend Kylie, we attended her church service on Christmas Day. Like, I think her spiritual well-being is more developed than many people in my life. And Ace at Pickleball Kingdom, I know like his true north is centered on religion. Like, I don't know, so I look to people in my life. I've mentioned like families that I respect in terms of the sense of family that they have, and my own family and extended family. Like, I see that and am inspired by that. So again, like almost anyone in my life, like they have or are doing something or are the type of person that inspires me in some way, shape, or form, and oftentimes across multiple dimensions of wellness. Athletes, Michael Jordan, Yannick Sinner, Federer, Caitlin Clark, like Katie Ledecky, like Eric, his men's tennis team. Like, I feel I'm just surrounded by that. Online, honestly, there's a whole generation of young people, and I say young, like individuals in their 20s. There's a kid, Alfie Gets Hard, okay? And he's presenting this culture that a lot of you young people are living. And I was not this way when I was in college. And this culture, this Alfie Gets Hard is a culture where it's not about hooking up or drugs or alcohol. Like, they're getting up and lifting in the morning and watching the sunrise and living extremely authentic, like, joyful lives. Like Mr. Beast, like what he is doing philanthropically, they're just living lives to me that are bigger than themselves and that matter and are in line with like I don't know, just living the good life.
So now moving into this next phase of your life, where do you see yourself allocating more of your time?
There is a lot up in the air, specifically right now for us. This reality show airs in January, and there are aspects of that I feel like I don't know how that's going to play out or pan out or what may come of that, you know? And then Eric retires like in June. Emmy graduates in a year and a half. We may or may not move. At that point, like, we could move if I wanted to pursue a given occupation. You know, if I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. Every decade of my life has been extremely different, and I feel like we're coming into like my next decade and what that's going to entail. I feel like I can and am like happy and happy-go-lucky, like in any, like every experience or location or like is what you make of it. I feel like I have, like I'm at a hub, and I and we can go any direction, and which direction will be the most fulfilling, I don't know.
Very aligned with abundance mindset of there's a lot of different directions this next decade could go. Only experience one reality, so we don't know what a different reality would look like. You do a good job of understanding that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's green where you look for the positives in it.
I may make what you're asking look easy, but it's not. Life is hard. And you don't know anyone's story. Like everyone has daily struggles, and sometimes they are a major struggle, whether it be a disease or war or right, and other times it is so and so hurt my feelings, you know, like but still, like every day, every week, every year, like just presents to individuals like struggle. I've struggled to process some of like I feel like my life, the last couple of years has maybe just because there's more change or upcoming change, or and yes, I have some anxiety and discomfort, like which direction should we take? Just believing in faith and hope and that you're where you're supposed to be.
Who do you lean on in those moments that you're not okay?
In the end, like, you can truly only take care of yourself, and yourself, but like your thoughts. And so first and foremost, and even I wrote an article about mastering my own mind, like seeing some of my struggles more from the outside, emotionally, physically, but then at the same time, like, I know that I have an extensive, like, network of friends and families that I can lean on, and that do, like my husband listens to my frustrations and oftentimes, like, lends, like, a perspective that I didn't think of. One of my favorite songs is Lean on Me, and I do feel like that song, there's 100 people that if I actually, like, could not figure out something myself and or take care of myself and or like, I can look this direction or drive to this person's house or turn over in bed and, like, have someone there.
What do you see the next 10 years of your life largely defined by?
Creatively, like, I have a book or two and multiple ideas just in terms of some creative writing, like writing fiction. Want to be a writer. Like, if I had a goal, like, I want to be a writer. I want to maintain my athleticism as I age. I want to for us to support our daughter as best as we can, continue to be there for and with her. And
how do you see yourself supporting your daughter as she becomes an adult? How do you see that relationship shifting?
Ultimately, I just want her to continue to know that we're here. And not just we, Eric and I, like her dad, her stepmom, her step siblings, to me, as long as she knows, like, she's pretty capable, and like I said, this year became more self-sufficient and independent and has opinions, and I mean, she's ready and prepared and is someone that can and knows how to take care of herself. But I just want her to know that we're here to help, and we support you and love you.
That hits home for me, because when I had an event this year that rocked my ship, the next day I got on a flight
and went home to your parents.
What's your nutrition like? What's your fitness like?
Yeah, again, just functional training in my life, whether it be housework, yard work, errands. Like, I'm pretty active in general to maintain my occupation, like as a triathlon coach, like I'm training with them. I'm regularly lifting now. I mean, I believe in the once you hit 40 and beyond, like, just in terms of helping maintain bone structure and strength. And it was really cool because I did the insanity test, fitness test yesterday, and I scored, like, I have test results dating back to like 2010. So I took the average of those, and the first two exercises I was slightly under, but the next 6 I was over by like 5 to 40%.
Wow.
On the average over 15 years.
Wow.
And I promise that that's because I have lifted regularly for the last year and a half of my life, because that's muscular endurance. And this is age 46, like I'm over my average from ages 30 to 44 when I was still in shape then. Lifting 2 to 3 days a week, 1 aerobic workout, 1 anaerobic workout, and walk every day. We have 3 dogs, so I walk every day, and that's low impact, like just movement. Nutrition wise, again, more so than before. Like, I didn't think about vitamins and supplements and when I was younger, but I am to the point of just taking a multivitamin, collagen, protein powder, like getting 80 to 100 grams of protein in a given day. Creatine, yep, that's like, if I became convinced of one thing this year, it would be creatine, and not just for athletes. Like, I think in terms of fighting, like even neuro long term. And a lot of my focus now is on longevity. As a female, taking calcium on top of that, iron, because I'm still like a menstruating female, like, and eating whole foods, like reading nutrition labels. And if it's complicated or you don't know what something is, like, I shy away from it. Nowadays, I spend more time in the fruit and vegetable like department at a co-op or grocery store, and we get the same thing from Sam's Club every week, like in terms of fruits and vegetables. But I also will admit, like, to eating Kraft macaroni here and there, like, because that brings out my like childlike, like it, like health wise, the benefits aren't there, but spark joy. Like, that's a book, related to decluttering, but things that spark joy for me, like you had asked one of the hardest things about parenting, but to me, it's not taking candy from her stash, like in her room, because that, like, I really enjoy candy and it sparks joy in me. With your kids, I want them to appreciate and understand like what is healthy versus not, but also to not obsess over it, and think that they need to be perfect. Like, it's all lifestyle.
Why do you think we get along so well?
I would say the answer to that is the title of your podcast, Pursuit, my dear Watson. Like, there's also another saying, like, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. It's still before 10 o'clock and we have both touched on our physical well-being, hit on a couple dimensions, and after this I have an appointment at the float tank for my own like physical and emotional well-being, and I'm sure lined up like the rest of your day is scheduled. Like, if I looked at your Google Calendar, we are both people that very much are always in pursuit. We're doing these things because inherently that's who we are.
I wholeheartedly agree. Becoming even more apparent the older that we both get. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, and thanks everybody for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. That wraps up my lovely conversation with Kris. I'm listening back and I am thinking how grateful I am to have you in my life, Kris. I know you're listening to this probably on a walk. You are seriously such an inspiration, so down to earth, so humble, and so wise, and I appreciate you sharing with me and all of the listeners your wisdom. Keep up with Kris and her pursuits. Check out kjsculling.com. Kris is a talented writer, a talented poet, and all around amazing human being, as you can tell. Thank you everybody for listening. I hope you're having a great start to your 2026, and I will see you next week. Bye.